This is Loren from the Golf Ranch. The last time we left you, we were going to talk about wedges and what types of wedges you should have in your bag. A matching set wedge or a specialty, or maybe some of these new CB wedges. Well, let's go over to the monitor. We've done our hitting, and let's show you what our numbers show. So up here at the top, you're going to see, and we've had the Callaway, the new CB wedge, and then we've got the Cleveland CBX2 wedge. And if you notice, when we're looking at ball speed, the ball speed stayed really close to the same. Spin rates were really close to the same. So was peak height and descent angle. If you look down on the third line, the matching set wedge, now that wedge had a little bit lower spin rate, also gave us a little bit more ball speed. We'll explain why that happened as well. A little higher peak height and descent angle a little bit steeper as well. The purposes of this is to try to help you decide what's best for your game. A matching set wedge, a more forgiving specialty wedge, or a player's wedge. So let's go to the number. If you notice, when we look at ball speed stayed really close to the same except for one thing, and that was the matching set wedge. Typically, matching set wedges have a hotter face. They're intended to match into the set. They have the same face material. Typically, they'll have a deeper center of gravity, so you may get a faster ball speed out of that. Then when we look back and we look at the launch condition, again, numbers stayed really close with the exception of the matching set wedge. Did launch it consistently slightly higher in the air. Again, deeper center of gravity, typically a little bit more offset. Therefore, the ball's going to go higher in the air quicker. Then we look at spin rate. If you notice the spin rate, 9,500 on the Callaway CB, 9,600 on the Cleveland CBX. But if you notice, if we really hone in on the matching set wedge, a little bit of a variation in numbers. We'll explain that in just a moment. The player's wedge, very consistent on its numbers, a little higher on spin rate. And then the player's matching wedge, well, you can see the spin rates were very consistent. We'll talk about that here in a moment as well. When we look at the peak height on most of the wedges, again, stayed really close to the same, with the exception of the matching set wedge. Again, deeper center of gravity, a little more offset, going to shoot the ball up in the air a little bit. Therefore, it also had a steeper descent angle. And when we look down at our player's specific wedge and matching wedge, again, very consistent numbers. As we look down, you can see the numbers didn't change a huge amount there as well. And then if we look at the yardages, overall carry distance yardage, that's what we're going to hone in on. Again, the yardages are very consistent when we look at the CB wedges or the cavity back wedges. But then we see again, a little bit of discrepancy there with the matching set wedge. And we'll talk about why that's the case. And then when we get the player's wedge, incredibly consistent. And then the player's matching set wedge, the staff member's matching set wedge, very consistent on the numbers there as well. So the purpose for this was to help you, the consumer, the golfer, decide what is best for your game, a matching set wedge, a player's cavity back wedge, or a more specialty wedge. So typically when we think of those, the matching set wedges, if you like complete consistency throughout your set, matching the head look, the head weight, and the shaft, getting that total feel, you don't do a lot of manipulation with your wedges, that's the best way to go. Here's the downside to that. When we look back at the numbers, remember we had a little more of a discrepancy in there, and that can be because of the hotter faces off of the matching set wedges. They typically, again, because of the offset, will shoot the ball up in the air much quicker, and you won't get as much control over your carry distances, and therefore not as much control over your scoring. But when we look into the cavity back wedges that have just been introduced to the market between Cleveland and Callaway, again, you see numbers are really very similar to each other. So both of these are great cavity back wedges. They're intended for the player that knows he needs forgiveness, but wants the feel and control of a scoring player's type wedge. And when we saw those numbers, we did see very much on the consistent side. So then the player's wedge, when we look at the player's type wedges, Well, those wedges are going to give you consistent numbers across the board. If you are the type of player that likes to do what I call manipulate the wedge, open it up, shut it down from time to time, that is going to be the best way. The trade-off is you don't get the forgiveness that you would get out of the CB wedges or out of the matching set. So come in and see us at the Golf Ranch, set up an appointment for a fitting, and let's talk about how to improve your short game by the technology and equipment that's out there. If you have any questions, call us or contact us through Facebook. And please, see the button down at the bottom? Subscribe.